they start tugging on that power. Once you give them the full trust, they want control. And after control, they just want to have you as a property.
Your soul.
No, seriously.
So I think one of the most beneficial things that anyone listening to this podcast could hear is an honest discussion about how you begin to navigate the new waters, right? Of I'm listening to myself, I'm trusting myself, and I also am opening to your love, so that I'm not either or. What does that look like? How has that been? And maybe not even how are you doing it, because I might be like, I'm trying.
I'm still learning.
Yeah, I appreciate the vulnerability, because that's really helpful for anybody listening. A lot of people get on podcasts and they assume the role of the pro, right?
Oh yeah.
So what has that been like for you, just trying to navigate that?
I think I learned what you need to learn if you're trying to like go to a relationship. I feel like you need to learn a lot of emotional security with yourself and then apply that in the relationship. Like, for example, if my partner wants to go out and have a fun night, like, they can have a life outside of me and I can have a life outside of them.
Yeah.
Like, yes,
how do you justify knowing that when they go out, they could cheat on you, or they could be unfaithful in some way? How do you? Because that would be like, fuck you. You're not going out. You're not going out. What, you want to go meet somebody else? You know, that would be like, okay, this is a little prickly. You're a little guarded, man. Yeah. You're a little too tight. You know, how do you not do that? How do you not choose that route? What's the logic in your head that goes, okay, you know what? Yeah, maybe he does, but I'm going to trust in some way, or I'm okay with that, or what?
I think also creating them, like, the boundaries, like you said in the beginning of the relationship. Like, if you choose to go out and be not faithful to me and we're in a monogamous relationship,
I'm out.
Then I'm out. Like, you won't have me anymore. I'm not even going to fight about you about it. Go cheat. I just won't be there anymore. You just have that person.
I feel like the people that are the most stressed in relationships
are the ones that you get cheated on.
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know that I would just off the rip agree to that, but I would say that I think the people who are the most stressed in a relationship are those who are not very aware, like not very tuned into the ability to feel for truth and to talk with someone. Like, if you don't fulfill your end of this agreement, because yes, we're feeling a lot of love and a lot of emotions, and that's really cool, and we love it. But there also are some boundaries here, and that is, you know, in a monogamous relationship, for instance, you're not being intimate with other people, right? I also don't want to be talked to like X, Y, and Z, and I also want to make sure that, you know, whatever other areas you might need to lay boundaries down. And then outside of that, I trust you. Go for it. Have fun, you know? And if anything, like, I think one of the skills is like not overreacting to things, you know, like maybe a girl's name pops up on their phone, you know, that's really loaded, because some people are like, oh, you texting your girlfriend or whatever. But like, maybe that's an opportunity to be like, that's not a boundary for us. Yeah. Could it become one? Yeah. But the overthinking of that can make every interaction for them with the other person that could potentially be a love interest or a lust interest threatening to you. And then you're hypervigilant all the time and you become controlling, you know?
Yeah. But you got to realize, you got to like look back at like the bigger picture. They're a person, you're a person. They have their own lives. They have their own friends. Like, they're going to have girls pop up in their phone. Yeah. But if they're like going around like hiding their phone or like just like doing little weird red flags, that's just like that's weird. Like, trust your gut. Like, say something about it. If not, and like you see names pop up and you address it and they're like, oh, she's just a friend I knew, then that's fine. Like,
yeah. And then you're like, like, even if you're like, oh, hey, who's Olivia? You know?
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, oh, she's a friend of mine from school or whatever. Like, that's cool. You know, like, sounds awesome. You know, but if they were like, you know, if a name popped up on their phone and they like put their phone in their pocket real quick.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, okay, as you grow up, you learn to trust yourself, right? That's what we're talking about. You learn to trust yourself. You know.
Yeah.
At that point, you know, something's a little off about this. And I don't need your participation in creating that reality for me. I get it. Something's a little off.
Yeah.
Someone's name popped up on your phone and you hit it real quick, and that was weird to me. And that's definitely a red flag. So then it's like, I don't really know if I trust this person that much. And I'm going to be a little bit more attentive to the things they do. To if there's something else like that, I'll probably excuse myself out of the relationship, or I might give them one opportunity to say, hey, I'd like to ask you about this person, Olivia. You know, I'd like to, what is it about the reason that you jumped or something? And then when people tell you, like, I think the biggest mistake people make is they allow themselves to be convinced by other people what it is. You know, it's like, oh, no, she's just a whatever. And it's like, I totally hear that. And I'll totally respect your ability to have friends, and it's your life, like you just said. But I just want to let you know, right? Like in a negotiation selling a house, like I totally see your price. I want to buy it for that. I just want you to know that the buyers aren't really a big fan of the, the roof being a little leaky. Just putting that there. I'm just not a big fan of the whole jumpy when someone texts you thing. It's a little odd to me. And then just leave it there.
Yeah. And if you sometimes that name pops up again, or like you've already addressed it and it's still stewing in your head, then address it again. Because one thing about us as people, we change our stories up. And if they change their story and they're like, oh, she's a high school friend, to like, oh, she's a friend that I met at Starbucks. That's like, okay, cool. Like, have kind of not an interrogation, but like come back to the subject. Like have a little buffer time. Think about it. Make it stew in your head a little bit.
I think that one of the most important things is that sense of trusting yourself that you talked about earlier. And I really appreciate that you mentioned that, because there's so many techniques of like keep tabs on what they said about someone, and then you have like this detective board.
Yeah.
Live your life, honey. Don't have a detective board. Like learn to know. And for me, it's learning to know what I am willing to feel comfortable with or willing to lose. You know, it's like, okay, so you have this, like there's a difference between like an intrusive thought about like maybe somebody, oh, I bet he's hooking up with her. I bet that's someone that they were intimate with, or I bet he is someone that she has interest in, or that's that guy from the gym. Why are they texting? That's different. You know, it is what it is. You should probably like relax, let that shit go, enjoy your day, and not get hung up on that. You're important, you're valuable, and they love you and they chose you, right? That's the foundation of your relationship. But if they're putting their phone away or doing things that make you feel like there's not a lot of trust in a relationship, I think that's a decision you make on your own, not together. You're like, I just want to quietly note to myself, if there's one or two more things that happen that are like that, I'm going to give myself the permission to leave the relationship. And the input from them is not important,